Welcome back to Past Your Prime, the podcast where we talk about staying active, strong, and competitive even when life tries to slow you down.
What is up, PYP crew? It is Past Your Prime, episode 15. I'm Alex, Spiker Kiker on Instagram. This is Craig. I don't know what your Instagram handle is.
It's Craig Smith PT.
Ooh, what is PT? Part-time?
Not cool.
Sorry.
Not cool. Physical therapist who loves patient problem pathologies while walking on the beach, helping people day to day. That's my life. It's my journey.
When was the last time you were at the beach? You just lied. is basically what-
February.
You just lied. All right, so intro me then. We're switching it
No,
up.
we're definitely not
No?
switching it. Okay, I'll try it. Welcome back to Past Your Prime, the podcast where we talk about staying active, strong, and competitive even when life tries to slow you down. I'm Craig, and today we're diving into a topic that hits hard for a lot of people.
Hits
How
hard
the
like-
hell do you stay consistent with exercise when you've got a full-time job, 2 kids? Is it just 2 kids?
Just 2 kids. I also have a dog.
And a dog, and that dog is actually a lot of work. A dog, injuries just everywhere from your wrist to your hip to your neck to your shoulder. But you're here, so I kind of want to hear what what we're gonna do on that. How's that intro? Did that?
Yeah, I mean, I have no clue what you were doing there. You just went off.
I just read something. Yeah, mine's not. I don't do intros well, and I also don't introduce myself well.
Great. I play volleyball, have enormous calves, and have a good voice.
Am I gonna have to edit everything I just said?
No,
I have to edit it out.
That's fine.
We could do our injury updates.
Injury updates with Alex and Craig.
Do the music.
You go first.
I have no injuries.
All right, that was easy.
My body feels actually really good. I did my first one-on-one with boxing, and that was really fun. I was expecting that I'd irritate something because that's normally what I do when I start something new, and didn't bother me at all.
You did get knocked out in the first round, though. About 15 seconds in, lights out.
I do feel, I'm not sure if you're supposed to say, I feel like I get concussions way easier than I should now.
Is that
When-
weak neck?
A weak neck or weak skull. I don't know what it is. My skull's not strong enough, but when I had my first concussion, I think it was either high school or first year of football in college. And then from there, I feel like I get them so easy now that it does make me nervous. And I think it probably makes Sarah nervous. I'm going to get back into doing a striking sport, but sometimes you got to do it.
Striking sport or spiking sport? You've got choices here.
Well, I have totally treated kids who've gotten the ball spiked in their face and they got a concussion from it.
That's great. I mean, I've seen it happen before.
Oh, it's so brutal.
Yeah.
It's so brutal how hard you guys can hit the ball into the person's face. It's brutal. So how are your injuries?
I played volleyball yesterday. Also did some basketball shooting around, which I was able to dunk, which was super fun. I'm like weirdly obsessed with dunking again at, late 30s, and I want to dunk at 40. So
That's actually
the
pretty
fact that I was
impressive.
able to punch it yesterday was exciting for me.
When you say punch it,
Like one-hander off the dribble, off 2 feet, throw it down one time, big man.
you are more of a power jumper than a glider.
Yeah. So I
Foot.
used to be a little bit more of could do some 1-foot jumping, but I think just for my lifting and maybe some of the added weight, I am becoming a power jumper. So I need to fix that and get back to being a little bit more dynamic. But
In volleyball, though, do you ever do a single leg like that? It's mostly power jumps.
yeah, it's mostly power jumps. But even off 2 feet, I used to be more of a glider type jumper, and yeah, it's all power right now. But either way, I was able to dunk, but I played volleyball probably a little bit longer than I should have. My wrist isn't too bad today. It hurts a little bit going into extension, but then the rest of my body is super sore.
All right, your range is coming back.
Yeah, range is getting there. Shooting a basketball was weirdly hard, and it was when I tried 2 months ago, so I think that will help some of the extension stuff. But then, yeah, my calves are sore, my shoulders sore. Just all the normal parts of me that get sore when I play sports are sore. So I don't think they're injuries, but I'm just sore. Sore everywhere.
Sore everywhere. I think that's actually a really good intro for your life that we're going to examine in depth today. which before the podcast, he and I had talked on the phone about what we were going to discuss this week. And an area that I think is really interesting that Alex has done to me a very good job with is staying active despite having every reasonable excuse in your life right now to not be physically active. At Smith Performance Center, we have a process where we work through people's issues for staying physically active. And what I find fascinating is Alex has systematically knocked out everything that typically stops people from being active, despite every one of your factors giving you a reason to not
And
to not be.
not necessarily doing them intentionally, as we discussed as well. They just kind of all fell into place somewhat organically, which I guess is a good thing.
Yeah. And so I'll just hit the top five for us.
What's our topic for today, then?
The topic for today is you're a busy dad, you have a full-time job, you have multiple injuries that you're rehabbing, but you're still training like a pro. You're training, you're doing all the activity you want to do. And the topic is how have you done that? And how do we go through each one and make it instead of it being something that you've just naturally done, how do we give people a guide or a strategy system that they can employ to do what you've done without really thinking too hard about it?
All right, let's get into it. What do you want to know?
Well, so the first five are accountability, comfort level, a coaching need, rehab standard, right, where your tissue capacity is lower than your exercise capacity. He may argue that he even had that as an issue. And then physical barriers, finding the time and location where you actually do your exercise.
All right.
All right. Well, I mean, we'll just start there. What does your life look like right now on a typical day?
So I'm pretty regimented Monday through Friday. I pretty much eat the same thing Monday through Friday every day, except for Fridays. I fast on Fridays. I wake up at about between 5 and 6 a.m., depending on when my 5-year-old likes to get up. Try and get myself ready before she gets up so that I can try and get her ready. My lovely wife is usually with the baby at that time. I also have a 5-month-old. And so, get myself ready, get myself breakfast, usually pretty light on breakfast, protein shake, take some different supplements, work, pick up my kiddo, have some time with the family in the afternoon, and then I do the gym late at night after I put the kiddo to sleep. That's kind of the general overlay of what my day looks like Monday through Friday. And then the weekends are more organic.
What happens, happens.
Yeah, spending some time with the kiddo, try and get to the gym at least 1 out of the 2 days on the weekend. That's usually the time when I can play volleyball as well. So depending on how my body's feeling and how my injuries are doing, I try to get and play volleyball. Before my injury, I was playing 4 days a week, and that's probably why I've gained so much weight, because I was playing volleyball all the time and burning a ton of calories. But now if I can play once every 3 weeks, I'm pretty happy with that.
So from all of those things, what do you find is what's the hardest thing about staying consistent with exercise for you?
I'd probably say the late night workouts right now. So I was going right after work, but I just felt like I was missing too much family time, being able to spend time with the newborn, being able to pick up my daughter from preschool. And so I just changed probably like a month or maybe 2 months ago to starting to work out after I put the kiddo to sleep. So that's like between 8 and 8:30 getting to the gym. I've really found that gives me more time in the gym, so I don't have to worry about rushing to get back home. I can get through my workout, do some sauna recovery at the end of my workout, and really just kind of like take my time through my lifts. I'm still pretty efficient. I don't like to use a whole bunch of rest time, but I can be intentional in my warm up, be intentional in my lifts, and then do some recovery at the end.
So for you, then the five things that we just talked about. So accountability, which is when you want to show up, you show up. We look at things like exercise relapse. Like how many times in the last 2 years have you stopped being physically active for more than a week at a time? Or if you're scheduling something on your calendar and you skip it, that's our accountability metric. And if you score low on that with our testing, you're 33 times more likely to quit,
We've said that a couple times.
which I still find that crazy. The second one is comfort level, or that one kind of mixes in people who don't feel comfortable exercising, don't feel comfortable the workout clothes, they've had a bad experience with it, or this also fits the people who don't enjoy exercise. That's our comfort level metric. coaching need, which is you don't know how to do the movements, and you don't know how to do a squat, you don't know how to do a deadlift, you don't know how to set up the weights on your bench press, you don't know how to do any of those things. The rehab standard, where your tissue capacity is lower than your exercise capacity, or the physical barriers. Which of those five do you find to be your biggest barrier?
Coaching need is definitely not one. I feel I owe a lot of that to you in my kind of early intentional training days. I mean, right now it's probably the rehab standard. There's still a few lifts that I am not able to do just due to my wrist injury. Did I say doo doo there?
You did say doo doo,
Yeah.
yeah.
I hate when I do that.
It's a lot about, that's a lot of your life right now.
That's doo doo right now.
Yeah, that's your life.
So I'd say the rehab standard right now, just with not being able to do all of the different exercises that I want to just because of that injury.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. What would you say is number two?
I don't know, probably accountability. I am sometimes just so tired at 8:30 when I'm putting my 5-year-old to sleep. I have to lay in the bed with her, as I'm sure a lot of parents deal with right now. You're sitting there with your kiddo and helping them go to sleep, and then you have to ever so ninja like sneak out of the bedroom without waking them up. And so there've been a couple of nights, even last week, where I caught myself like snoring and waking myself up. And I was like, oh, and luckily I put my gym outfit on before whatever I'm wearing to the gym before I go in there to put her to sleep. And so like I'm already in all of it. You know, I've got my stretchy pants on. Like I'm not going to change out of this to just go to bed. I'm just going to force myself to go to the gym. And then as soon as I get there, like I've got at least gotten a lot better at doing a much better intentional lift once I get there.
If you get there, you're there and you're good.
Right.
So for you, it's the actual act of getting there is the other difficult piece.
Yeah.
And the second thing that I think we just have to really make sure we hit, he said stretchy pants. And so what do you mean by stretchy pants?
They're for
Like,
fun. A movie that I have seen is Nacho Libre. And so stretchy pants, they're for fun.
You haven't seen John Wick, you've watched Nacho Libre.
Several times.
Oh my Lord.
Dressed as him for Halloween once as well.
Wow. Okay. In Borat, from what I remember here.
Yeah.
In Borat.
Yeah, that's how I caught my wife.
We're definitely gonna have to talk about that. All right. You've mentioned it a couple times, the time that you trained. Can you take me through, because it seemed to be an iteration that you worked through. How did you work through getting the right time and then finally landing at the end of the day? What did you do to first test out these different things and then finally land on one that worked for you?
So, just over the several years of trying to train, morning workouts have just never worked for me. Like, deep down, I'd love to be somebody that could get up at 4 a.m. and go do my lift and, just get it out of the way at the beginning of the day. But even from my early days training it with Craig, we'd have like 7 a.m. workouts.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just never really good at those. Probably for somewhat other reasons, but we won't jump into those right now. But
Well,
in my younger years, I was definitely not good at morning workouts. In my older years, I'm still not good at morning workouts.
I am an extreme morning person and I don't like morning workouts.
I've definitely become a morning person and I still don't like morning workouts.
Yeah. That is, and then I think that right now there's a really large push from different communities in a positive manner, but I think they miss the boat sometimes. If it doesn't match with your rhythm, and if it's one of those things where for you the biggest barrier is getting there, but if you got there in the morning, you may actually have a crappy workout.
Right.
And
To happen.
you don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so you moved on from there, and then you said balancing the family duties with the kind of unrestricted time was the other big piece for you.
Right. So honestly, there's days where, I don't have work or whatever, or I have the opportunity to go in the middle of the day. I think that's probably my best time to go is, 11 noon, sometime around there. When I have those opportunities, I love them because I feel like I train at my full capacity. Sometimes time is still a restriction there, but I have my best lifts when I can do them in the middle of the day. I was going immediately after work. I could take my kiddo to the gym with me before I had the newborn, which was nice. She really enjoyed going to the little kids club that they have at our gym, and had a bunch of fun there and was asking to go. So I feel bad that I haven't taken her there recently. But now that I've got a newborn, I found that I was just missing a lot of time with the baby. And so, like I said, a month or two ago, I started to go after I put my daughter to sleep. And I found that I can still be intentional. It's tough to get there, but I can spend even more time than any of those other times during the day to really be intentional with the warm up, get a good lift in, do some recovery, and not feel like I'm losing time at home.
Well, how did you develop that rhythm with your wife that you were able to set it up the way that you did it? Was there like a negotiation component to it, or did you just tell her to stay home?
No, she goes once a week during the week. That's on Wednesdays. I honestly like I go at night, so if she wanted to go more, she has a busy day on Mondays, which make it tough for her to be able to go to the gym. But yeah, I'd imagine if she wanted to go more on the other days of the week, she probably could.
You know what
She dictates my life, honestly, so I just comply.
uh,
If she says I can go, then I go, and I try not to mess that up.
I do know Alex's lovely wife, and I don't think she would hold back. She's a very forward person. I like that about her. Now, what's interesting is I do find that when people don't negotiate that with their partner, that can actually become a huge barrier. And it's almost like you're talking across each other, and people will actually feel resentful that, oh, you're able to go while I'm actually having to do this. So that's kind of nice that you guys found a nice working solution around it.
Yeah, I mean, and she's been super supportive, not only of me being an old guy continuing to try and play volleyball, but I feel like we've kind of worked off each other and have been building each other's motivation up as well, which is just a nice dynamic.
Okay, so we hit the accountability component you found, and then we also dove into the physical barrier component, which is the time and the location. You've nailed both of those. The next one you said was the rehab standard, which is the tissue capacity piece. How have you managed your injury with some of the workouts? And I know we've hit in some of these other podcasts, but like specifically, what's your mindset going in to doing some of your workouts right now?
Don't listen to Craig. I just go and hit it hard every time, regardless of how much it hurts.
Good Lord.
Yeah,
That.
yeah.
So I love that
That's
you
why I
went
keep
down
coming
that
back to
route.
physical therapy.
Wow. But in our society, I do think it happens where people will overvalue pain and undervalue lifelong exercise and the exercise habit. If we look at the end of the day, you're healthier from ignoring some of my advice around pile driving your wrist into, you know, a bad spot. I do think that's a mistake, but you have committed to being physically active even when it's more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I just once again I get there, and when I get there, I want to be intentional and get the most out of my time spent at the gym. So sometimes that means pushing through a little bit of pain, almost only specifically with my wrist, but I had a little TFL injury, my calves hurt. I ran a mile in 12 minutes this week, even though my calves were hurting.
It's so good. You run like a gazelle, like a beautiful
I'm trying to work on that, like actually having my
gazelle.
heels touch the ground when I run and not just running on my tippy toes the whole time.
Is there anything around how you trained before you started having these series of injuries and before you trained with me that you now find difficult to not do?
I mean, there was no intentionality in my lifts before I met you. It was all just like, go in, I'll do some bicep curls, and I don't know. I definitely was not trying to run. I was not squatting heavy. I didn't know proper form on a lot of these things. I
So
don't
it
know.
probably wasn't much.
Yeah, so I don't have
Okay.
a good answer to that, honestly.
That's great. How about you sound to have a really specific nutrition and even sleep plan if you get sleep. What would you suggest on that? Like if somebody's in your shoes, what are you doing specifically for nutrition that helps you even though you have long days and you're working out hard?
I've told some people this before, but for my 10th anniversary last year, I went to Hawaii and they just eat terry plates, which is just generally white rice and teriyaki chicken. And so I must have had that like 5 or 6 times while I was there. And for whatever reason, when I came home, I was like, I just want to eat white rice and meat. And so, really, for like the last, I mean, I just had my 11th anniversary. So, for the last year, I've eaten white rice and meat probably 5 days a week, if not more. And so I just kind of changed my lens at that point to just trying to eat kind of single ingredient foods or, you know, real whole foods rather than things coming in packaging or things of that nature. I found a lot of really good foods at Costco. And so eating those, but I generally Monday through Thursday eat the same thing every day: banana and yogurt, grapes and strawberries for breakfast, protein shake with collagen, creatine, and protein powder after that. That one gets me like 50 grams of protein, which is great. I eat like a 20-gram protein yogurt. For lunch, I'll have a salad with 50 grams of protein in the chicken. And then usually I'll have like some sort of fruit, like an apple or a banana for a late afternoon snack. Dinner's my white rice and meat. I wish I threw vegetables in there, but I don't like any cooked vegetables because I'm super picky. So that's why I try to eat those with my salad at lunchtime.
How do you know with your nutrition that can you tell when you're off? Like before you made that change, what's the difference between how you're doing it now when you got into these teriyaki bowls versus before?
I really don't know. I mean, I just feel better altogether. I track my sleep with my watch, and like you said, the nights where the baby will sleep, the scores have improved drastically.
Wow, the nutrition was probably a
Yeah,
significant
yeah,
component
and
of
I'd
it.
imagine it was. And so, really, at first, I was just focusing on protein goals. Now I've used some calculators just to try and bring my weight down a little bit. I feel like when I was jumping my highest, I was probably in like the 175 to 180 pound range. I'm up to like lower 190s right now. I'd imagine some of that is, I mean, I just lifted legs for the last 8 months almost solely until, 2 or 3 months ago when I started throwing some upper body in. So I'm hopeful that a good amount of that is muscle mass that I've been able to put on.
Well, you hit a couple things that I think are really key to your strategies. Like you started very simple. You found something that worked from a previous experience. You then simplified it so that it didn't overwhelm your day. I have seen a lot of individuals where they go all out on the meal prep and they make it so complicated and so long that they fall off the wagon within 2 to 3 weeks. So you developed I think you did. It sounds unintentionally. You stacked a whole bunch of skills on top of it. The first one is you kept it simple, so it was well within your ability to do it. Didn't take as much motivation. And then as you got your protein levels, well, then you stacked on top of it another thing of just consistency, timeliness, so you don't have any issue with continuing to do it. And I think that's really nice when you start to stack skills, and you can stack skills on something that seems as simple as your nutrition plan.
I'm a quarter Korean, and so white rice is like one of my favorite foods. I can just eat it plain. I get to eat it every day. I generally do eat it every day now. Uh, so I bought a really nice rice cooker,
Yeah.
which great investment in my opinion because it makes perfect rice every single time. But yeah, so I mean, and all of the meats that we eat are generally some sort of Korean variation of marinated meats, both from Costco, some that I make myself at home. I'd also imagine like my wife is pretty surprised that like 11 years ago I would have never cooked anything. And now I feel like I cook most of our dinners in the evening, which hopefully she likes.
And that came from over time, once again, building the ability to do it.
Right.
I'm 100% Nebraskan, and we raise wheat and corn, and wheat tries to kill me. I cannot handle wheat. So it's nice that your genetic roots are very supported by the food that you eat.
Absolutely.
It's really nice. Now, anything that you're taking supplement wise, did we already hit that?
So I do, I think it's called Legion is the brand. It's like 8 pills, 4 in the morning, 4 in the night.
Is it in like a package form or just you open it up, it's all together?
It's in a, yeah, so all the pills are the same, or capsules, whatever you want to call them. Legion Athletics, I think they've got great supplements. They're lab tested, which I like knowing that what's going in my body is generally what's on the package label. So I do 4 of those with 2 fish oil supplements. I do not like fish, so that's why I throw fish oil in there. I am not eating any fish.
I like how you said that. Like
I
that's
just
just not going to be on the menu.
right.
Fish is not going to be something that you
Yeah.
consume.
When I go to like the sushi restaurant, it's like, okay, I'm Korean and I only like very specific Korean things. But yeah, like I'm not eating the sushi. I'm like, I'll have the teriyaki, please. So I do that. I also started supplementing. I think I talked about creatine already. I feel like that should be in everybody's supplementation routine. Collagen is another one. Don't know if it actually works, but it is another protein source. Supposed to be good for connective tissues. Collagen is a part of the body's natural processes of relaying tissue. So
Take a step back. So the creatine piece, what have you noticed from taking creatine?
I don't know. I feel like I think a little bit better. Like my memory
Wow.
and
Okay.
thought processes have become clearer since I've been using it for about a year consistently now.
Do you notice, because I know a lot of the ideas around facilitating your phosphate and creatine system, like do you notice that you can do like efforts between, 5 to 15 seconds? Can you do those better? Do you find an improvement there, or is it
Like
more around?
with lifting. I mean, I've been taking it so consistently now that it's hard to tell. And I feel like I threw all of these things in all at the same time. So in actual practice, it's hard to tell if there's a considerable difference just because I've been using them consistently for so long. And I started being more intentional with my lifts and all of this really at the same time.
When I'm working with somebody and they start to throw them in, and if you're, especially if you're somebody who has like a sensitive stomach or you want to see the benefits, you can layer them in over time. Or you, as you can see, Alex doesn't really have a halfway, and I think that's actually useful to know. He either goes full out, or I actually think you lose motive. I think you lose the ability to continue if it's not what you think is maxed out.
Like worthwhile.
Yes. You may not be that type of person. I'm actually somebody who I like it to be stacked, where I gradually increase what I'm doing and test it. And this would be another place where you need to match what your brain makes, what makes you actually do the thing first, which I think is big. So the fact that you didn't pull them apart, that just kind of speaks to your brain style.
Yeah. The last two things are I forgot my morning routine. Every morning I wake up and have, I think they're called Dr. Price's electrolytes. They're really good. Just kind of starts my day off with some good hydration.
Like a baby formula,
No, no.
like a Pedialyte.
It's kind of like a Pedialyte, which I love Pedialyte. Just love it. The viscosity of Pedialyte is fantastic to me.
So he doesn't like fish, but he likes Pedialyte. Just want to make sure
Yes.
everyone caught that one. I've never
Anyone
Pedialyte.
who's ever seen me at a volleyball tournament, 2 bottles of Pedialyte are coming with me. But I found a powdered electrolyte that I really like. Same thing, lab tested. It's supposed to be good for you. I don't know if any of this stuff actually works or not, but I feel pretty good about it. So that's my morning routine. And then my nightcap is my second iteration of my multivitamin and then 2 magnesium capsules. And that's for recovery. And I feel like it has just wildly changed my sleep for the positive. Once again, don't know if that's true or not.
Man, we are absolutely going to break down everything you're taking and look at we will do a more of a deep dive on some of his supplementation.
I feel like we just spent a lot of time on that, but I've been intentional on it.
Now the second one. So the first one you said was just the time was a big barrier. The second one was a rehab standard. And I really just have one specific question on it. We had an episode where you struggled to admit that I was right, that you were on the rehab standard, not the performance standard. And I know that in some ways you had to, I don't know, not give up, but totally caved to my opinion. Now, I actually don't know if he actually caved. I think what happened is he just continued to do what he wanted to do and made me feel better by saying that he was understood he was on the rehab stand.
That's exactly what I
I know
was
that's it.
about to say. Like I tell you in practice, but what I'm really doing is
It's different.
Yeah.
So how have you balanced keeping your, because you have done a good job of maintaining tissue capacity and not overloading it. So how have you maintained tissue capacity continuing to improve and not having large full scale setbacks with what your performance goals are and how hard you want to train?
I think I've just had to temper the amount of volleyball I play, which even right now I want to go and play on Tuesday, but I know I just played yesterday. And so having just 3 days in between there is not going to be beneficial for me. So I'll probably wait a week, even though I'm still considering playing on Tuesday.
His option then, and just to clarify what he said, he will still go hard and he still is going to train at a really high level. And in his eye, and then to do that, he focused more on recovery. So you have longer periods of recovery, but you're still keeping the intensity fairly high when you do go to do the activity that we find to be the most provocative.
That sounds right.
That is a strat. I mean, that's absolutely a strategy. What I see people sometimes do is they'll do both. They'll do, hey, I want to keep the intensity high, and then I'm going to match it with the same level of frequency. And for him, it's better to have the intensity is critical. I think for you, if you guys listen to everything he's saying, that his intensity is actually one of the things that keeps him going, and he needs that stimulus. And so to match that, he's building in more recovery days.
Well, and I think I'm getting close to a time where I'm going to struggle with that again with balancing lifting versus playing sports. Like, in all honesty, I need to play more sports to get better at my sport, to work on my jumping mechanics, to work on my skills if I ever want to get back to playing with my team full time. But I'm also just cultivated this love of going to the gym and working really hard in the gym. And I'm starting to see some of those benefits. Like I said earlier, I was able to dunk a basketball, and that's one of my weird new obsessions is just with dunking. I used to be a pretty good dunker back in the day, and hopeful that I can continue to do that for the next few years. So I can see a future struggle coming up in terms of how often do I play sports and how often do I go to the gym? Because I'm going to have some sort of give in between there, especially with the time commitment with time at a volleyball facility or a basketball facility are very limited what I have available to me versus
Mhm.
the gym is kind of always available.
Yeah, we term that in season and off season. And for us, that those two terms help us a lot to figure it out. If you're in a skilled sport, the best way to get better at the sport is by doing the sport. And his strength training is going to shift when he gets into that mindset. What can sometimes happen with sports like volleyball, basketball, where there's always opportunities to continue to play the sport, is you don't give yourself the off season, so you can't make performance games or reset your foundation. We'll hit that next time. I think that's great. Do you ever worry you're pushing it too hard?
Always. Always. I mean, especially since tearing my calf, part of that I think was I was just pushing everything too hard. I was max lifting all the time. I was playing volleyball way more. I mean, probably 4 times a week for 2 to 3 hours at really, really high levels. And I think all of that just played into just lowering my tissue capacity so much that it literally tore.
Why and your nutrition wasn't on point?
Definitely not. No.
And I do think there's a significant piece on that. Do you feel like you ignored warning signs during that time period?
Yes and no. Like, it was hurting. It was hurting the whole time, but I don't know. I don't think you ever think your calf is just going to rupture. I went to do a jump serve and a firework went off in my leg and everybody heard it. And then I just went down. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's what it feels like to tear a large muscle in your leg.
Yeah, I feel like anytime somebody's told me that a firework goes off in a muscle, it never goes well for that muscle.
It did not go well for that muscle.
No good, no good whatsoever.
And now I get nervous. I mean, even today, like my calves are sore and it feels slightly similar to that soreness I was feeling before I tore my calf. And I know my capacity is way higher now, but still, it's just that nervousness in the back of my head that if I do a hard jump right now, is my lower leg going to fall off? I don't think so, but you never know.
We will definitely need to jump into that one in a second. I don't that sometimes it's hard for me to hear things like that and not to immediately pivot into his calf right now, but we're going to continue on the subject at hand, which this all this stuff leads me into the idea of the mental game that you have to play with what your life is right now, how busy it is. Yeah, I mean, how do you motivate yourself when you're exhausted? Because I know you've said before, sometimes it seems like you don't get sleep as a parent with a 5-month-old and how old is he?
Five,
Oh, that
five
actually
years,
makes it
five
five
right
and
now.
five. Yeah, how do you because you've said that for you it's just getting there that's the big piece. I know you have times where you're exhausted. I mean, you look terrible right now.
Thank
He
you.
looks terribly exhausted right now.
I'm
How
not.
do
I
you do
feel
it?
pretty
Oh,
good.
oh, you feel good?
Yeah, it was more you that looked beat up this
Oh
morning.
man,
Yeah.
yes. We had our niece and nephew at the house for the whole week. It was friggin' awesome. Like a great. It was really fun. What I found is every night, I don't know why, I was like nervous that something was going to happen. I slept horrible the whole week.
And they're teenagers,
And
right?
they're
Yeah,
teenagers.
they were sneaking out and doing crazy
They were
things
probably
on
sneaking
your
out.
watch.
Oh my Lord. I hope that isn't. I mean, so yeah, what do you do with that? With the sleep piece, I think is just wild. And then I guess combined with that is you also have this injury kind of in the back of your head. You you have an injury that's a serious injury that's limited your ability to do things. How do you stay motivated?
That's a tough question to answer. I went through some major stresses during COVID, and I think I just had a terrible time during the kind of COVID-19 years. Like, job is stressful. Job is currently still a big stress factor. And so I just found that staying physically active just helps my mental health so much that I just I don't think I can ever give it up again. And at first, I thought it was just like the social aspect of playing team sports, which is kind of what got me out of that funk during COVID. But now, I think the gym is one of those spaces for me where it just helps my mental game, mental health, whatever you want to call it, so much that it just needed to be a part of my life now.
And so despite any time that you, even if you do feel tired,
That it's going to be beneficial. Yeah,
beautiful.
that it's not a bad thing, regardless of how I'm feeling physically, how I'm feeling mentally. It's going to create a benefit for me, so I keep up with it.
What would you say to somebody who's saying like they're trying to get back into training and they don't think they can, life's too busy. They have all these different reasons to not exercise. What would you say to them to help them get started?
I mean, we've said it before, but put yourself on the calendar. You know, I don't know how many hours we have in a week, but dedicating three to five of those hours towards your physical fitness can just start you on such a good path of total well-being. I think that, yeah.
And then if you were going to say the five barriers again, the accountability, comfort level, coaching need, physical barriers, and what was the last one? The rehab standard.
Yeah.
Out of those five, which of those five, like from your experience when you're talking with like friends, other people, which five do you think most people are dealing with?
I would probably say accountability. I mean, motivation is one where I know we want to talk about that before, and you've done some cool talks with your clinic and other patients on motivation. But like staying motivated to be physically active is, I think, probably the biggest barrier that most people have to come to terms with. That, yeah, like I said, you've got to put yourself on your calendar, put yourself first. I mean, I know there's people like me that have more than two children and, way crazier lives than I currently live, and they're able to do it. But I also know that there's people out there that maybe don't have any kids and are still struggling with it. So, or don't have a job or whatever it looks like.
But it's a good point though. They're the same barrier. Not everybody's gonna have the same problem. And I think hitting through it and getting really clear on what is the thing that's actually making it so you don't get there and don't stay consistent with it. And like I said, Alex has done a really good job of hitting the ones that were stopping him and really overcoming them. And you have a very clear strategy, very clear method to basically make it so he's there day after day, week after week.
Yeah, and it varies sometimes. I mean, I think I've been very consistent on my weekday workouts, but there's times where the weekend doesn't happen. And, now I'm in a place where maybe I'll replace a lift with a day of sports. But once again, just continuing to stay physically active is really important to me. And so that's why I keep up with it.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I got to do better on my just rehab plan for my wrist. But aside from that, stay active.
Stay active. All right. I think that's a good place for us to wrap up. Do your thing.
Drop a comment below if you're struggling with any of these five areas with accountability, with your comfort level for fitness or in the gym. If you need help with the fundamental exercises we've talked about, happy to help you with that. If you're rehabbing something, let us know. Craig's a great resource, and we're happy to dive into some of those in the podcast. And then if you have physical barriers in terms of the time or where to do your workouts, we can help with all of that too. So comment on those below, give us a like, subscribe. It's free. It helps us out a bunch to reach more people, and share.
Yeah.
I'd be super appreciative if you shared this out.
Share this out. All right. PYP, baby.
Yeah.